So, as the truly ridiculous year of 2024 finally winds down, I find myself in a familiar place, sitting on my couch, eating way too much fast food, and of course watching old Boondocks episodes. It's been a while since I made a video about the Boondocks, and even the topic of this video is a little bit bigger than just the show. But seeing as I sort of made a name for this channel over the past year or so, discussing and analyzing the Boondocks, it only seemed fitting to end this year with one more Boondocks video. And this is a sort of follow-up to a Boondocks video that I made earlier in the year called "The Boondocks Brings Up a Good Question." That video was about questioning the idea of unconditional unity and love between people of the same community, be it race, religion, sexuality, nationality, blah, 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 blah. My final answer to the question was ultimately no. No one should be expected to love, support, or show favor towards someone else just because they belong to the same group. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you do, but to me, love is too strong of a word and too strong of an emotion to say that I, a black, love all black people just off of the strength of being black. Some people agreed, some people disagreed, but saw where I was coming from. Some people just called me a coon and went about their day. Either way, it was, in my opinion, an interesting discussion that was all inspired by this clip from the Boondocks.
You do what you can to help black folks, and they make you wonder why you even bother. But they're our people, and we gotta love them regardless.
Similarly to how I found inspiration from that clip, this clip from Season 1, Episode 10, titled "Deitis," is what inspired the topic of this video.
This food is destructive.
This food is your culture.
Then the culture is destructive.
This episode is all about Granddad opening up a soul food restaurant in town, and it becomes super successful. The issue is that the food that Granddad is serving to people, it isn't exactly the healthiest.
A full-pound burger patty covered in cheese, grilled onion, 5 strips of bacon, all sandwiched between
2 donuts.
2 Krispy Kreme donuts.
The people of Woodcrest become fat, violent, and homeless after getting hooked on Granddad's deliciously poisonous food. And it's to the point where the restaurant basically destroys what was once a thriving, high-end community. Now, there's a lot that could be discussed about poor diets and opportunistic capitalists who force harmful foods into unsuspecting neighborhoods. But the part of this episode that stood out the most to me was Huey's line about the culture being destructive. Soul food has been a part of Black American culture since basically the days of slavery, and there may be many differences between Black Americans of the 21st century and the Black Americans of the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, but one thing almost all of us have in common is that we are all innately familiar with the smell of someone cooking chitlins for a big feast. I've only smelled it one time, and I'll never reclaim the innocence I lost that day. But regardless of how ingrained soul food is in Black American culture, it's also very clearly responsible for many of the hereditary health issues that a lot of Black people have. I mean, when generations of people have been eating the same slop for centuries, there's bound to be some residual effects. When Granddad defends his food as being part of he and Huey's culture, he also tries to shame Huey for speaking ill of it. Huey then doubles down and says that if this destructive food is his culture, then the culture that creates and consumes this food must also be destructive.
Granddad, you can't serve this kind of food to people. It'll cause death. Whoa, this is what crack must feel like.
But when I heard Huey say that, I agreed. But then I thought, what if this guy said that? Or even worse, what if one of these guys said that? Would I still agree, or would I react emotionally and say, "F you," simply because they're outsiders to my culture and I happen to disagree with many of their other beliefs and assertions? I'd like to say that I would be logical and diplomatic about it, but honestly, I don't know. So that made me think, who can critique the culture? And when I say the culture, I'm personally speaking about Black American culture because that's what I'm a part of. But really the question is about all cultures. Who was allowed to bring attention to and discuss the issues and negative aspects of any specific culture? Do they need to be a part of that culture? Do they need to have extensive knowledge of that culture? Or can they be a complete outsider who just happens to have a good point or observation? When Huey says that Black soul food is destructive, people listen and they take his words into account because Huey is not only a Black American character, but he's also shown to be radically pro-Black throughout the series. And since Huey is not a real person, and all of these words and ideas are really coming from the show's creator, Aaron McGruder, and the rest of the writing staff on the show, their words can also be taken in good faith because, well, they created one of the blackest cartoons ever made, and it's clear that Huey and the Boondocks as a whole want to help black people. But what if someone who doesn't want to help black people made comments about the issues in the black community? Does the messenger's intent matter when, at the end of the day, it's either fact or it's not? These are issues that need to be addressed, so does it really matter who was addressing it and why? As I said earlier, this is a question that I have always struggled with. I get the whole don't shoot the messenger thing, but also I feel like I should be entitled to say f the messenger if their message truly upsets me. I would love to be the always rational, always controlled, perfectly unbiased superhuman that never gets offended or succumbs to my personal feelings. But unfortunately, I am a human and I do get emotional or irrational from time to time. I'm just a chill guy who be watching shit and making videos, man. That's it. I showed Andrew Schultz earlier because of the recent comments he made about everyone's favorite little lyricist and world-renowned Drake hater, Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar recently dropped an album called GNX, which I have been listening to non-stop since it dropped. I actually had to force myself to stop listening to it today just so I could sit down and write this script. Seriously, that shit is incredible.
This is a certified hood classic.
He mentions in the first song called Whacked Out Murals that black men should never allow a white comedian to say anything about black women. And hey, look who's a white comedian who says things about black women. Andrew Schultz faced a lot of backlash from these comments, backlash that he responded to by doubling down and making a very weird joke about what he could do to Kendrick Lamar if he wanted to.
But just Kendrick, I would make love to him and there's nothing he could do about it. Just Kendrick Lamar, I would make love to him and the only thing that he could do is decide if it's consensual or not.
Andrew Schultz is an asshole. He's a funny asshole, but like all assholes, he doesn't really understand the feeling of being offended. So he says things without any tact or care for how those things are going to be received. I just find it interesting that his assertions and opinions about the black community were so quickly dashed aside by black people. There is also a flip side to this. Cultural critiques that come from those within the culture who just happen to disagree with the beliefs and actions of the cultural majority. An example of these type of people would be the types of black people who, when questioned about why murder rates of young black men are so high, the first thing they say is that, oh, it's gotta be all that damn rap music.
Turn off that goddamn black African Congo jungle noise! Son of a bitch!
And okay, does rap contribute to violent habits of young black men? I think there's a solid argument that it does. But my counter argument would be that the influence of generational racism, inequality, privately owned prisons, and government interference within poor black neighborhoods is a much bigger culprit in keeping black male murder rates so high over the years. But hey, that's just my opinion. People like this exist in all cultures to varying degrees. The ones who are in the culture for whatever reason, but don't really fit into that cultural zeitgeist. I've always wanted to say that phrase. It kind of makes me sound like I'm smart, you know? Ultimately, I feel like intent is the most important thing when it comes to critiquing culture. Whether you're a part of that culture or you couldn't be further from it, your observations/advice on how to fix the issues within that culture should be coming from a positive and helpful place, as opposed to those who just want to highlight the negatives for their own personal reasons. But that's just how I feel about this question, and I'm seriously interested in hearing what all of you have to say about this. Do you feel comfortable critiquing your own people and your own culture? Do you feel comfortable critiquing other people's and other cultures? How do you feel about when other people do it, both inside and outside of your culture? I would really love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, even if it does just devolve into more people calling me a coon. I just wanted to, stop by the end of this video, give you guys, all the subscribers, all the people who have been watching this past year, and even longer than that, for the 3 or 4 years I've been doing this, just say, what I always say, thank you so much for all the support, all the kind words, even the not so kind ones, all the comments and critiques and everything that you guys have had to say and share about my videos. It really means the world to me. I try to respond to everybody that I can whenever you guys comment and talk about the videos. I know we're in that weird time of it's after Christmas, but not quite the new year yet. It always feels kind of just like, like purgatory, right? Like you're waiting for the start of the next part of your life, right? Because we always think about everything as years, right? This is my year. This was the best year. This is the worst year. This is the weirdest year. 2024 definitely qualifies for weird, crazy, out there years. But I think it's important in this time, right? This sort of like incubating, waiting period, to just reflect on everything, right? Whether you had a good year, a bad year, just reflect on what you did right, what you did wrong, things you could do differently. Because at the end of the day, I feel like the most important thing every day of your life, every month, every year, whatever, is just to be better than you were the previous, right? Be better today than you were yesterday. Be better next week than you were this week. Be better in 2025 than you were in 2024, no matter how good you were in 2024, no matter how good things went for you. Just always try to improve yourself. And by doing that is how you keep from becoming stagnant and complacent and, maybe falling back into previously bad habits and things like that. It's very important, I think, to always want to be better, no matter how good you are. Don't take that to mean that, you'll never be good enough. But just that should be something personally that you have inside you, just to say, even if it's just incrementally better, just a little bit of progress every day, is very important into becoming, better people. Because no matter how good we are, I think we could all stand to be better people. So I hope that, everyone who's watching this, who's hearing this, whatever, has a great 2025, a great rest of 2024, and, beyond. Like Buzz Lightyear, Oh man, I had to end on a corny joke. But thanks. I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.